Iran and North Korea wish they had it too. Most of the Caribbean lucky like we. Studio Galaxy Day for you and me. Blow your shell, beat your drum, tell others. Like and share, subscribe and discuss it too. Let the world know Studio Galaxy is around. Studio Galaxy in Confero, hope you know. 473 standing strong is yours, you know. The medium and opportunity for you. Make your contribution, let them know.
Mashaitan.
Democracy in Spice Isles is alive and well. Ask you questions, sing and beat you drum. Make you suggestions, encourage them on to walk the straight and narrow in the land. Politics, religion, and economic issue, regional, international, spiritual issues too, agricultural.
Welcome, brothers. Welcome back to the second part of our program on Studio Galaxy 473. And remember, the number to call is 536. Sorry. The number to call is 536 2558. We always open up the door for people to call and make contribution.
Mr. Pierre, the people and them say, you doesn't big them up in the comments.
Yeah.
So you have to give a little time and big up the people in comments.
And please forgive me, I guess it's my my ability with the technology to maneuver. I'm not that good on the technology. And that's the challenge. So, but I highly appreciate all those who participate on the program. And we encourage you to make a contribution, and we will read your questions that you ask. We provoking discussion. We want people to ask questions. Too much of our politicians are getting away with murder. Today we saying Caricom leaders, why not seek the interests of your people? It's a question we want people to start to ask themselves. Is our leaders in Caricom seeking our interests? Do they have their own agenda and using us as a cause? They're riding on we back. They're using us as an opportunity to seek their own personal interests. Caricom leaders, why not seek the interests of your people? And I'm going to address that under 4 broad headings. I'm going to look at Caricom foreign policy. Is it reflective of our people's interests? I'm going to look at it in terms of the education of our country. Is Caricom leaders truly interested in our education? Or they just want a few people educated so they could continue with a kind of status syndrome? I would like us to look at hurricane. Is Caricom leaders ever seriously discuss the impact and the effects of hurricane in our country and how to solve the problem? You know? So no foreign policy. I'm starting with foreign policy because they like that. Caricom leaders like to draw their sword and take part in fights that doesn't belong to them. Fights that are going to get a name call. So for instance, today, most of the Caricom countries are not supportive of Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign country. They're independent. They got in 2000, I can't remember what time, not certain, it was 2005. Ukraine make an agreement with Russia, Britain, and America to give back Russia all the nuclear weapons that they had. The United States and other Western nuclear power was concerned about the proliferation of nuclear weapons. So after Ukraine got the independence from the Russia, the Soviet Socialist Republic, that broke up, and a number of countries became independent, they decided they did not want Ukraine to have nuclear weapons. They decided that the people who have nuclear weapons already, we must not encourage other countries to have. We must manage the proliferation of nuclear weapons. So Ukraine hand over the nuclear weapon they had with Russia in an agreement that they signed with Britain, the British and the Americans, and Russia. But Russia wants Ukraine. The Caribbean leaders seems to support Russia to invade a sovereign country. Most African countries also support Russia. Why? Is that in the interest of us in the Caribbean? We being sovereign, independent countries, very small countries, without military might, is it in our interest to support an imperial power invading a small sovereign state and demanding that they hand over portion of the land to them? That's one situation. We have a war that goes on in the Middle East, and that's been going on for thousands of years. Israel. Almost all the countries in the Middle East hate Israel. They want the annihilation of Israel. They want Israel dead. They want Israel in the bottom of the sea. Iran don't share a border with Israel, but Iran, the whole world know that one of the reasons Iran is fighting for nuclear weapon is for the annihilation of Israel. Because they believe that Shia 12 would not return unless Israel is destroyed. You see how we believe that God will come back and take some of us in heaven and send people like me and others in hell? Some people believe that. Shia, the Muslims believe that Shia 12 would not return unless they have the destruction of Israel. So the Quran say agreements with Israel is disallowed. So they want to kill the Jews. Most of the countries in the Middle East, from 1948, Christianity has not grown in the Muslim countries. Only in Israel, Christianity has grown. It's almost a paradox. It makes you almost dumbfounded that Caricom leaders are more supportive of Iran and Islam that has an objective to kill Jews and infidels. They consider Christians as infidels. They might give them an hour to convert, but Jews, Muhammad say kill them. Caricom leaders are more supportive of Islam, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and Iran than Israel. Now you must understand these things. From 1948 to 43 or what? The countries that had Christianity practicing in Muslim countries, Christianity dwindles. The only country in the Middle East where Christianity grew is in Israel. Well, I don't know how Caricom countries get involved in that. They take their sword and they backing aside. I ask the question repeatedly. Why Caricom leaders are not seeking the interests of our own people? Israel has a democracy. Iran don't have no democracy. Yemen don't have no democracy. Most of these Arab countries don't have democracy. But Caribbean countries are supporting these countries because I believe they want the annihilation. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this word good. They want the total destruction of the Jews and Israel. Caricom countries could have ended up as a good broker for peace and negotiate for a peaceful settlement and continue advocating that what we should have is a peaceful settlement and respect for each other's right to exist. But if they take that position, they'll be going against Iran. Because Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and some in Syria and other countries does not recognize Israel's right to exist. So although a number of Caricom countries do not say that aloud, they don't want the Jews to exist. The communists and the atheists don't like the Jews too. They want them dead. Most Caribbean leaders are not Christians. They might pretend to be Christians because it's opportune. And the majority of people in the Caribbean are Christians. But deep down, I believe they want them Christian dead. I ask the questions. Why Caricom leaders not seeking the interests of their own people? Their foreign policy does not reflect the economic realities and the will of the people. I don't see Grenadians fighting to go and live in Cuba. Even the Grenadians that was trained in Cuba don't want to go in Cuba and live. They pick up some woman in Cuba. The majority of men married Cuban women. The majority of women don't want Cuban man. You know what I mean? You don't want to. You could just watch around you. Those, they talk about a wife. Very rare I hear a Grenadian woman talk about a Cuban husband. That doesn't mean when she was in Cuba, she didn't have a Cuban man. But generally, the women in Cuba more likely to get a man. And they want the man to take them out of Cuba. They don't want to stay in Cuba. Why? Caribbean leaders are promoting and bigging up. That might be a better word. Bigging up Cuba a lot. Then why is it even those who return after studying 7, 8 years from Cuba don't go back in Cuba on holiday? If they go back in Cuba on holiday, is to go for the woman. And the main intention is to get the woman out of Cuba. Have you ever wondered why none of the Caribbean leaders have shown solidarity with the thousands of prisoners that is languishing in Cuban jail for political reasons? Have you ever wondered why no journalist in the Caribbean has called on Ralph Gonzalez and asked Ralph Gonzalez if he has ever called on the Cuban government to release the political prisoners in Cuba or give them a fair trial and an opportunity to defend themselves? Have you ever wondered why no journalist in Grenada has called on Mia Motley in Barbados and asked her if she in solidarity with the Cubans that is in jail only for political reasons? Now, these people, Ralph Gonzalez, Mia Motley, all of us in the Caribbean, even Deacon, have freedom of expression. They have freedom of the press. They have democracy. We can criticize them. They don't like it, but it can't stop us. Have you ever wondered why Caricom leaders have not publicly called or put pressure on Cuba to release political prisoners, to free up the press after 60 years? Have you ever wondered why Mia Motley, Ralph Gonzalez, or any Caricom leader have not expressed solidarity with the Jews that Hamas and them using as hostages? In October 7th, they went into Israel, kill, murder, rape, tear the body of children, and take over 200 and something people as hostages. They still have them. Have you ever wondered why no Caribbean leader has publicly called for these hostages to be released? Caribbean leaders, I believe they hate the Jews. They are not saying that loud. They're very quiet on that. They're very subtle. Hear the noise they're making for the Palestinians. Hear the amount of noise they're making for the Palestinians. But you have not heard one day they call on Hamas to release the prisoners. Whose interests CARICOM leaders are seeking? Do CARICOM personnel are going in China on holiday? Are they going in Russia on holiday? Are they going in Iran on holiday? Caribbean personnel, how many of you are going in Cuba? Yes, I know they got stories, but they don't want to leave there. They want to live in the United States of America. The United States of America is the most cosmopolitan country in the world as an imperial power. The most welcoming country in the world as an imperial power. That is the country you have the opportunity for if you're born in America and you're black, you could be the Secretary of State. When Condoleezza Rice tells her father that she going someplace to buy hamburger and they didn't want to sell give her, he told her, you could be president of the United States, you're bawling about hamburger. Go and study your work. Go and study your damn work. He said, you have the ability to be the president of the United States of America. You come tell me about they don't want to sell you hamburger. Go and study your work. Condoleezza Rice became the general secretary. secretary general or general secretary, something like that. When she was going to university and she wanted to study art and music, they said, what's wrong with you? You're too intelligent. She went into some other political science and other international relationship. A Grenadian going in the United States of America could turn millionaire and could hold any position in America once he has stay that the law permits. Could you do it in Japan? No. Could you do it in China? When? Could you do it in Russia? You might end up in Siberia. Could you do it in Iran? Well, you have to turn a Muslim. Muslim in Israel could hold the highest position, including chief justice and be politician. Now, why Caribbean leaders don't seek our interests? Why is it necessary for you to pick up your sword and jump in people's fight? Why are you drinking bush for people fever? Why don't you seek our interests? Guyana is part of Caricom. Guyana have free election. I know of no political prisoners in Guyana. Let me repeat that. I know of no political prisoners in any Caribbean country. Venezuela have thousands of people in jail. Hundreds of thousands of people fleeing Venezuela because of political persecution. Yet, Caricom countries align more with Venezuela than Guyana. Only Pamela Bisesa in Trinidad that openly decide to take a position that if Venezuela invade Guyana, she's supporting Guyana. The other Caribbean. It's a paradox. Is it a curse on black man? I ask the question, why does the black man not seek his interests? And I'm zeroing in, why Caricom leaders are not seeking the interests of the people? Take, for instance, Grenada. And you could say that about very many other Caricom countries. Our economy practically depends on the gratis of the United States of America. Why do I say that? The St. George's University contributes more than 20% of the GDP. We depend on tourism, and it's American tourists that is the best. 75 American tourists better than 100 European tourists. The British more mean. They don't give you nothing for nothing. The Japanese worse. But the Chinese, you don't get nothing out of that. So for the tourist industry to develop, we have to depend on American tourists. We sell passport gratis to the American. We are selling passport to go to Russia. We're not selling passport to go in Cuba. We're not selling passport to go in Iran or China. We're selling passport because the United States market is attractive. And the people who buy Grenadian passport believe it is easier to go to America. But what happened to us? Why is it our leaders are not seeking the interests of our people? Look at our agriculture. Grenada is better poised than most countries in the Caribbean because of the number of facets of our economy. Cocoa, nutmeg, fish, and soursop. In addition to that, we could sell 20 other products, agriculture products, including bread nut and pepper to the United States of America. Why is it our Grenadian leaders' foreign policy is not reflective of the dreams and aspirations of our people and the economic realities? We have a love-hate relationship with America. The great Satan. Mount a Grenadian want American dead. Most of all the Grenadian communists, they go in America. Comrade, you want to turn back the revolution? They castrate people in Grenada, you know. They line up people against a wall and execute them. They jail over 300 Rastas. They say in rehabilitation center, they call it Hopeville. The Rasta call it Cowpen. They treat them like animals. They put some women lie down on the ground and they whack on the back. People beg them for water to bathe. All sort of barbarity and cruelty was committed against our people in 4.5 years. And all the individuals that was complaining about the CIA, all of them going to America. You know? All of them going to America, except Chester Humphrey, John Galt, and me. 3 communists, good communists you have in Grenada. Only 3 good communists. All the rest gone in America. These same people that were condemning Grenadians for being too close with America, CIA agent, all of them gone in America. Well, what's wrong with our black man? What's wrong with our people? Why Caricom leaders are not seeking the interests of our people? We don't know if we go in or coming where fish is concerned. Now, if the fishing industry, when January comes, if we cannot export fish, it could seriously affect the sauce-up trade. Sauce-up is not banned, you know. Grenada sacrificed over 100,000 pounds of sauce-up to convince the American that sauce-up don't have feeders in it. Over 100,000 pounds of sauce. And Grenada, I believe, is the only place in the world that could export fresh sauce-up to the U.S. market. That is not an easy market we have. You know. We can't satisfy the market. You know. Instead of we providing assistance every year to put more than 25 acres of land under sauce-up, because sauce-up taking 18 months, 3 years to bear. You hear us say 18 months, 3 months. 18 months, 3 years. Because I know we won't manage good. So you get in 3 years. Instead of that, you know, Grenadian politician beating the chest give America. Well, it's either they're stupid, they are political lunatics, or their brains so warped with ideology that they're using the vote our people give them to mind their business rather than seek the people's interests. And I believe it's a legitimate question to ask. Why Caricom leaders are not seeking the interests of our own people? Based upon the economic realities and the will of our people in America, those who don't get to go in America, go in Canada and England. They want to stay in America. Some of them hiding like prisoners in America. They don't want to come back home. But Grenada seems to want to pick a fight. What is the justification? When you hear Grenada speak about Cuba, you believe it's Cuba alone that's giving them scholarship? You ever hear any Grenadian leader ask for solidarity with the thousands of prisoners languishing in jail? It's only America reminding them. Only America are seeking their interests. I wonder if the Christians know that our leaders in the country is selling us out. They're backing Islam. Islam considers us as infidels. They say they'll give us 1 hour to convert. They want to kill the Jews. And they consider us as infidels. Let us look at the hurricane. The Caribbean region is prone to hurricane. Jamaica, Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent, and the other islands get some touch. Barbados is very lucky. Trinidad very lucky too. Get a little lash, but not much. Does Caricom leaders sit down and discuss hurricane? I don't think they do. Unless it's to beg for money from America and other countries. Now, Caricom heads of government should summon or challenge or set up a think tank with architects to design a house, a low-income house, that is resistant against hurricane. Let me repeat that. Caricom leaders should summon the architects, challenge the University of the West Indies, seek assistance from the American military, if necessary, to design a wooden house that is resistant against hurricane. Why do I say wood? Because if you're going for a low-income house, it has to be cheap. Can't cost more than $40,000. You have to design a low-income house. Caricom leaders should encourage their members to remove all VAT and keep the price of screws and screw gun minimum. Because based upon the information I have, 1 screw is stronger than 10 nails of equal unit size. Now you want to tell me that those highly sophisticated people in the Caricom don't know that? They don't mind in their business. They're starting to go and fight for Russia and fight for Muslims to kill Jews and fight against the country that is most welcoming and provide benefit for the citizens. In Grenada, here, if it was an American company that was building this master development in Liver, do you not believe there would have been an economic multiplying effect throughout the whole villages that is American passing? When the Chinese going up, they look as if they're in jail. They're there on a truck, sit on the back of a truck. They're hardly smiling. Very rare they stop and purchase from a shop. You ever hear a Chinese dead? Over 20-something years in Grenada. You ever hear a Chinese dead? I believe right where the dead, they bury them. No funeral. It's a different culture that we are associating with. It's a different culture. We dig in our own grave. You have the hurricane. Every year you're likely to have different countries in the Caribbean be destroyed by hurricane. If more than 50% of your housing stock is destroyed every year, you ain't going to know it. And when you have a bunch of political neophytes like the one we have in Grenada, that is corrupt to the core, you're going to realize how detrimental it is. What could cause Caricom country not to take a policy that we're going to design low-income houses? And why you think a person on low-income houses? Most of the high end of the scale houses are not being destroyed as the low-income houses. And if they are destroyed, most of them are insured. So the people perhaps sometimes benefit. Or the damage is not as, the economic woes is not as significant. You know what happens when you have a hurricane season? And it damages the poor of the poor house? You know what the elderly say? The hurricane season causes girls to turn woman and boys to turn man. They say that with a sad level of lamentation. They say this disaster is causing boys to turn man and girls to turn woman. The destruction affects people mentally, psychologically, and it has devastating consequences for decades. And our Caricom leaders are frolicking. They like the gala life, making fine speeches as if they're preparing for the thesis. And I ask a question. Caricom leaders, why not seek the interests of your people? I want to encourage you to discuss these issues because my main aim is to provoke discussion. And I'm going to go to another one. Education. We have the University of the West Indies. And I must say, the University of the West Indies have done a lot for us in the Caribbean. It has internationalized. It has internationalized the Caribbean academically, gives us recognition that I believe the university stands among the top universities of the world. But I always ask the question, is the University of the West Indies answering the call of the dreams and aspirations of our people? And I don't agree. In Grenada here, nutmeg, cocoa, and spice is very important to us. Hundreds of millions of dollars come to the economy over the years and provide meaningful employment for our people. Does the University of the West Indies have an academic program in nutmeg, cocoa, and spice science? Have they done any significant research? Grenada should have experts in that field. Has the university paid attention to the fishing industry in the Caribbean? The Japanese said more fish die in old age in the Caribbean than what we would. More fish die in old age than what we would. So that gives them the right to have net and high science and sweep the floor of the ocean and collect every damn thing tooth bagay. While we have our most intelligent intellectuals walking around like turkey cock and speaking more English than the British. What is the investment academically that the university has done into fish? How has the University of the West Indies helped the fish industry in the Caribbean? How much graduates from the university you got involved in fishing? I'll ask the question. What's about honey? Honey is a significant percentage of honey was used even in medicine in the ancient days. And honey is perhaps one of the food you could store for hundreds of years and still have it. Look at the level of flora and fauna that we have in the Caribbean. What did the University of the West Indies done for the beekeeping industry in the Caribbean? Is it not a shame and disgrace? Caribbean people used to be importing queen. You have this place, I don't know if it's one of the American islands, Honolulu. Yeah, Honolulu, I believe. They used to be importing queen from there. They don't want queens from the American mainland because you have too much disease. So this place was one of the safest places. They used to also import from Veracruz in Puerto Rico. And that means you're on a list for months to get queens. Because they don't want to bring queens from Canada and the American mainland because they have too much disease. Then you have the Africanized bees. So you cannot take queens from Trinidad or Africa because the bees are more defensive. What did the University of the West Indies do for beekeeping industry? One among the bright agricultural experts, dressed up with jacket and tie, speaking English more than the British, correcting people grammar on radio and social media. What have they done for the beekeeping industry in the Caribbean? Why Caricom didn't mandate the University of the West Indies to invest in beekeeping? The amount of master beekeepers we should have in the Caribbean, we should be exporting them. The United States of America have an insatiable appetite for bees. And United States farmers will buy our queens in Grenada if we were able to produce good queens. And we have good material, you know. Based upon the laws of genetics, you could develop your genetic material. It's just as dumb as the government. You go in and bring animals come. You want big size and big balls. What you doing with that? What you doing with it? The same attitude we have. How has the University of the West Indies helped us? And our Caricom leaders, the university is yours. So you have to give them direction. You're so quick to award them and hail them. What has the University of the West Indies and Caricom do for the flowers industry? The flowers industry is a billion-dollar industry. The flowers industry is a billion-dollar industry. What does it take to develop the flowers industry in Grenada? We don't have to bring in flowers. We have flowers. We have lilies. We have rose. We have the hydrangea. We have a number of flowers. We going on the Chelsea flower show. We winning world prize. We have a number of variety of orchids naturally propelled by private interests. What has the University of the West Indies done for the flowers industry? Why Caricom leaders don't focus on these things. You're trying to push tourism. Tourists want flowers. Dead people want flowers. Married people want flowers. Tabanka people want flowers. Everybody wants flowers. And flowers is so perishable that you have to buy it with great regularity. You have Carnival. You have Christmas. You have, you call it one way people like to dress up in red again and Valentine. How does Caricom, when Caricom meet, why you don't mind your damn business and discuss issues that is relevant and pertinent to the country? You make a nice, fine speech. You lack practicality. Why Caricom leaders do not sit down and seek our interests? Is this dismal? It's low. It's a shame. Our educators are unproductive. They're not delivering any goods. Every time you are critical of it, you hear they talk about reform. Nobody else speak about reform. We're speaking about productivity. Our educators in the Caribbean is unproductive. Why should it be that? We don't have winter in the Caricom. We have nice hot and wet season. So the stress of winter not on our students. Our countries are small. The teacher to children ratio in Grenada and most Caricom countries is competitive with the developed countries. We in Grenada invest about 10 to 11% of our GDP on education. More than some of the developed countries. Because we have a small country, our children tend to have a wider experience in natural issues and commercial and economic issues. I don't know if I'm making sense with that. So I'll give you an example. If a child grew up in Iowa, he could watch all around him, all he seeing is corn. But if you're in Grenada, when you watch out of your veranda, you will see about 40 or 50 different plants. You will observe about 40 or 50 different plants. In the village where you live, in United States of America, you might see sheep or cotton alone, or soybean alone. In Grenada, you're going to see 15 or 20 people doing different things. From gambling to farming, rearing sheep and pig, mechanic. In some of these big countries, you don't have the multiplicity of these activities. So it gives your child a competitive edge. Why are we not doing well? Why is it we in Caricom countries not doing better? Why are we so unproductive? Let's talk about music now. The scientists tell you over 100 years now that if you teach music in school, your children will do better. Caribbean people, they like to whine, and I like to see them whine, particularly those women. Are you teaching your child music in school? A 2-year-old child dancing. You will believe they train the child to dance. They dance into the rhythm of the music as if it's choreographed. The child listen to the music and putting on the moves. That means the child could learn. Why don't we teach music in school? Is it that we don't want much to pass? Some of them I wonder if it's a black curse, a black trait. Why is it music is not taught in schools, in primary school? I ain't talking about singing for choir. Children sing through the whole time. You don't have a voice. You don't even bring somebody to help them to develop their voice and voice control. We have one among the calypso and singing, they can't even breathe. That's why they could use so much bad word. How to cock up, how to turn on. They don't even serve in it. Why we don't teach music in school? Most of our principals, if not all, have bachelor's degree and master's degree. And would have traveled to go to university to get it, or they get it online. And they know for a fact, and I dare them to take me on when I speak, they know for a fact that if music is taught in school, the children will do better in maths and other subjects. The children are more likely to behave better. They're more likely to work in groups better. They know that this is scientific facts. You can seek higher learning and don't understand the importance of science. A couple days ago, a fellow tell me I must drink bush. Yeah, bush for everything. I said to him, my ancestors live on bush and they didn't live long. They live on bush, but they didn't live long. So science is important. I called today and I asked the question, Caricom leaders, why not seek the interests of your people? That is what you was put in power for, not to seek your own selfish interests. I don't care if he's a communist or an atheist. That is not my business. You are there to seek the interests of your people. You have to take into consideration the economic realities, your people's will, your people's belief. The majority of people in the Caribbean are Christians. They believe God is going to come and judge them and they go to heaven and they're going to send Francis P. alone in hell. They believe that. Nothing's wrong with that. If you is a communist, that is not with business. The people who you are representing, the economic realities of the day is tied with the U.S. market. And they want to go in the U.S., they don't want to go in Cuba. They don't want to go in China. They see how the cultural practices of the Chinese even in Grenada. Caricom leaders, because of your geopolitical relationship, you seem to be deeply embedded in Latin America. So much so that you prefer Venezuela than Guyana, and Guyana is a part of Caricom. Why don't you teach Spanish and French in school? Lord, what kind of leaders we have? Lord, where is the trade union leaders in our country? What about the press and those journalists? Every time I say journalists, I remember Malcolm X warning. He said they could make a guilty man innocent and an innocent man guilty. Some of our journalists, these things only happen because some of our journalists is pure joke. They have been corrupted. They have been bought and paid for. They lack independence. And they don't ask in these leaders, whose interests you seek? Is it the interest of the communists? Why is it you're not calling out and ask for solidarity with the thousands of people that are rotting in jail? Rotting, not a good word. Languishing, you might understand better. In jail because of politics. The only reason they're in jail, because the dictators disagree with them. If I was in Cuba, you not hear me voice. They're in jail long. Jenny Simon, they're in jail long. Sheldon Scott and Real FM, they're in jail long. If we was in Iran, we are stoned to that long time. If we was in Russia, frostbite eat out all we food we in Siberia. If I was in China, they bust up we head and execute us. These countries are not tolerant to dissenting views. They jail people. If I was in Africa where Traore is, are they in jail too? Caricom leaders. Why not seek the interests of our people? We believe in freedom of the press. Why not call for freedom of the press in Cuba? You want the annihilation, the destruction of Israel. Why don't you call Iran to recognize the right for the people to exist? Why don't you call on Hamas to hand over the hostages they're starving and using as human shield? We need to wake up in this country. And anytime we hear politicians afraid the press, they do good. They have things to hide. And we supposed to be the custodian of our democracy. So when our democracy go bad, we are responsible. We have nobody to blame. We can't blame people. We have to stop blaming people. We have to prepare to ask questions. We have to be prepared. We have to be prepared to provoke discussion. And we have to take our politicians to task. And you too have to help me grow this studio galaxy. You must talk about it. You must share it. We're small. And it's going to be difficult. But you have to subscribe to us. The politicians don't too like us much. Because they don't know if you'll criticize them tomorrow. But you who listen, share our program, like our program, subscribe to our program, and we could be a force to reckon with as we walk around with the truth. Thank you very much.
The medium and opportunity for you. Make your contribution, let them know. Democracy in Spice Isles is alive and well. Ask you questions, sing and beat you drum. Make you suggestions, encourage them on to walk the straight and narrow in the land. Politics, religion and economic issue, regional, international, spiritual issues too. Agriculture.